Hi there, this is David again, and in this third video I'm continuing to work on the bottom of the new railing to get everything secure. I'll also be putting in the end cross piece and getting ready to also prepare for the uprights that will be going in on the next segment. But here's the next section detailing how I'm finishing out that bottom part of the log. So now I'm going to be drilling the countersink holes into the floor holes that I'll then be placing these washer sets into to support the log. So and that is going to make quite the mess, but we have to do it. So on this one, we'll keep on going. What the countersunk holes look like now that they've been drilled. And as I mentioned, I'm going to be basically putting in approximately 7 washers to basically fill that gap. And then when I drop the log on top and bolt it to the floor underneath this floating floor, the log is in essence going to be supported by the washer's height and not so much by the floating floor. I want to give the floating floor enough room that it can continue to expand and contract per the instructions on the floating floor. So that's where we are now, is drilling these countercyclical or countersunk holes to put the washers in all the way down the rest of the line here. So after a lot of vacuuming and cleaning up of the carpet and everything like that, got the log basically ready to go. I've got the number that I think is appropriate of washers in the floating floor system, and have got the log basically ready to have the bolts screwed down. So that's going to be this next step here along the length of the log. So my wife thinks I'm cute while I'm doing this kind of work, but anyway, what's going on now is that we're now bolting the log down to the floor. So doing that on each of the bolts, which are have been put through about halfway. From the underneath of the log, it's a little difficult to tell, but you can see little bit of where those washers are potentially going to help support that log. The log is not perfectly flat because this is a hand-hewn log, so I needed a different number of washers in each of the spaces. So that's what's going on down there. So I've got the bolts about 3/4 of the way screwed in, and the log itself, even without screwing them all the way down, is actually very, very stable. It's not going anywhere, very secure. But the reason that I'm not screwing those bolts all the way down, and some of you might have picked up on this, I have this angle down here, and what I still need to do is I need to fine-tune the upper piece that's going to go on this wall through here to fit into the notch and then I'll be bolting that cross piece coming from the log into this piece, so it's very secure. It's another way of stabilizing this. Technically, I don't know that I absolutely have to do that. This log is so secure that I don't know that I necessarily have to do that. So I might actually give that some thought. If I can trim this upper board through here to flush mount that, I may or may not need it to actually help support this bottom log at all. So again, this is the log bolted to the floor. Again, not tightened yet. The tenons are in just loosely over the bolts, which again are not all the way down, but again just to give an idea of what this is going to ultimately look like when it is done. But as I mentioned, the next step is at this end of the log, and what I have to do is basically trim the base of this log, sand it just a little bit actually, to change that angle just a hair to get rid of this gap that is between the log and the wall. Obviously, when I want this finished, I want the log to be flush with the wall. But what that does is I have a little bit of a gap at the bottom that I just need to sand and get rid of that little bit of a gap so that it looks like it's finished off.